بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا، أنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. I praise Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. I thank Him. I ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to send countless blessings and salutations upon our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his family, his companions, and all those who follow them in excellence until the day of judgment. And I ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us the sincere intentions. Insha'Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, I pray that all of you have started their day in a good manner by worshiping Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and making the intention to obey Him in all that He commanded and to refrain from the prohibitions at minimum. And insha'Allah, you had the intention to increase in voluntary acts of worship. Today, this morning, I have a variety of things I want to discuss. So this may be a little lengthy, depending on where it goes. But in my mind, it may be a little lengthy because I have several things I want to talk about. So normally every Wednesday morning, I do reflections on the previous night's Black Imams Roundtable. Because even though we be going over time, it's 3 of us. Last night it was 2 of us. So we don't always get to get out everything that we would like to discuss on the subject. So I usually take the next morning to finish some thoughts that I wanted to talk about. And today, there are several things that I want to talk about, and they're really related to what we do on a regular basis, but I wanted to hone in on them. And it also relates to what we've been doing previously in our series, When the Rubber Meets the Road. So we talked about Aqidah, we're now in the subject matter of al-fiqh. And I want to give some advices to us. And I often, on these platforms, emphasize issues related to the African American community. And the reason I do that is not to exclude anyone, but I honestly believe we need as a community, as a people, as a nation, and I want to emphasize that we are a community, a people, and a nation. Can we put that up? African Americans, we are a community, a people, and a nation. I really believe that we need to collectively understand that. And if we don't understand that, we're going to continue to neglect our own needs and concerns. And it has devastating consequences for us not doing that. Nowhere in the planet Earth do the people of a certain land, a certain ethnicity, a certain cultural experience not recognize that, except with us. We have our own challenges, concerns, and needs as a community, a people, and a nation. With that being said, everything we approach, we have to approach with that reality. If we don't, we're making a serious mistake. That doesn't mean that we should be biased against others. That doesn't mean that we don't consider others. It doesn't mean that at all. What it does mean is that we recognize who we are, where we are, who we are, where we are, and what we need to do. And I'm saying this because everything we talk about is in that context, because we're talking about it. If someone else is talking about it, they're going to talk from their context. And the context of someone else and us are not necessarily the same all the time. With that in mind, I want to mention the issue of seeking knowledge. Because when we were talking about the issue of marriage, the first thing that I mentioned was that we shouldn't be getting married until we learn the Islamic rulings related to marriage and divorce and everything else that comes as a result of a marriage contract. Like how to raise children, like child custody, other matters. Knowing how to raise a family, how to be a part of a community. All of those things come from a marriage. Once you're married, you have children, you have a family, you're in a community, you're a part of the society as a group. That's all a part of it. And for all of that, there are legal rulings. For all of those things, there are legal, Islamic legal rulings. So for us, it is important that we acquire the knowledge that relates to those legal rulings. So in order to do that, we have to learn from where do we get that knowledge? How is that knowledge acquired? And ultimately, what we should do with it. These are important things. And I want to emphasize something, and I'm going to say it straight. We are a community. We are a people. We are a nation, and we cannot be slaves to no other community, no other people, and no other nation. Let me repeat that. We are a community. We are a people. We are a nation, and we cannot be slaves to any other community, any other people, or any other nation. Slavery has a physical component, yes, but obviously we're not talking about that. But if it's a mental or a religious or a spiritual slavery, even though it's a different type, it's still slavery. And we cannot be slaves to anyone other than Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. This is very important. Because some of us only know how to be a slave. Even if it's not physical, we can't even think without a master. This is problematic. And it has tragic consequences and results when we act like that. Don't be a slave. Don't be a mental slave. Don't be a spiritual slave. Don't be a religious slave. Don't be an unlearned slave, academic slave. We have done that far too long as a community, as a people, and as a nation. Everyone comes to us and gives us their twist on stuff, and we never evaluate it. If it came from them, it must be right. Why? Why it must be right? Because it came from them? How about it come from you? Would it be right then? Because they don't automatically say it came from you, so it must be right. So, no, this is serious. It's something that we need to think about. So the learning process must be there. And by learning, you won't be a slave. Even in theory, if you learn, the more you learn, the more you research, slavery in any form becomes almost impossible for you to accept. Let me add that again. The more you learn, the more you research, the more you discover, it will become almost impossible for you to be a slave and accept it. Impossible. Right? So therefore, knowledge is a key to your overall freedom. It's extremely important. So we mentioned yesterday the verse of the Quran where Allah said, وَقُلْ رَبِّي زِدْنِي ilma. Say, my Lord, increase me in knowledge. Every single one of us should have that as a motivational verse in our path to freedom. وَقُلْ رَبِّي زِدْنِي ilma. And say, my Lord, increase me in knowledge. On top of that, we need understanding. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "May yuridullahu bihi khayra, may yuridillahu bihi khayra, yufaqqihu fid din." Whomever Allah willed good for that person, give them understanding of the religion. So if we want good results out of everything we're doing, we have to get an understanding of this deen, an understanding of Islam, a proper understanding of Islam. So yesterday I mentioned that if we're going to learn the rules related to these family issues, we need to learn it from one of the four Sunni schools of Islamic jurisprudence, from a book that is a well-known book in one of the four schools, the section of marriage and divorce and those related issues. That's the how. How are we going to learn this information? You have to sit down and read and study a book of fiqh according to a school of Islamic jurisprudence that has been accepted by the Muslims over the past 1,200 years. Because we're talking about a serious issue that's going to have a direct impact on the way our community moves, right? It's going to have a serious impact. We're talking about our lives, our future, the preservation of our deen and our lineage and our reputations, our property, our lives depends on how we approach this issue. So it can be, not well researched and checked. So that means we're not making up legal rulings ourselves based on our limited understanding of the Quran and Sunnah. We're actually following the legal deductions and research and outcome of scholarly effort. That's why we're talking about one of the four schools. And whenever we talk about a school, we're not talking about one person. We're actually talking an entire body of scholarly research and work in various aspects of Islamic sciences and expertise in those areas, combined to work on giving us the best that is humanly possible in fiqh research. Right? So that's extremely important. So number one, I know in our communities, among us as a people, in a nation, we've been bombarded with the slogan of I follow Quran and Sunnah without realizing what that really entails and what it means and why we see a lot of the problems that we have in regard to these issues and others from a legal standpoint, Islamic legal standpoint, because most of the legal rulings are not well thought out. They're individual efforts of people based on their understanding. So you have these people, I don't follow a madhab. I don't blind follow a madhab, quote unquote. But at the same time, they're blind following their own desires or blind following someone else who is blind following their own desires. Because you have to ask the question, and please, this is a serious question. Whenever someone tells you, I don't follow a madhab and I follow Quran and Sunnah, you have a series of questions you want to ask them. You want to ask them a series of questions. Number one, you don't follow a madhab. You follow Quran and Sunnah. Could you explain to me how that works? That's number one question. Let's understand from their side, what are you talking about? What does that look like? I hear the slogan. Sounds great. But what does that look like? How is that done? So we're going to take the entire Islamic legal system. We're going to abandon the madhabs, plural madhahib. We're going to abandon that. And we're going to follow your interpretation or whoever you're following, since you're not following the madhahib, whoever you're following their interpretation, and we have to understand that methodology, because every madhab, I want you to write this, has its own individual methodology by which they extract legal rulings from primary Islamic texts. Please write this as a note. Every school, the Hanafi school, the Maliki school, the Shafi'i school, the Hanbali school, all of those schools have their own methodology which they employ when extracting legal rulings from the primary text of the Quran and the Sunnah. In other words, they have a whole toolbox that they use, full of tools, when they extract legal rulings. It's not just one aspect. They have an organized system. Let me give you something, a visual. Imagine a big toolbox with all different kinds of tools that are needed to work on a car, for instance. So you think of a car, you think of everything that goes up to making a car, and they got this big, huge toolbox with all different types of tools to work on different aspects of the car. And different tools are for specific parts of the car. Not one tool, not two tools, many tools. A skilled mechanic. You can imagine how many tools that person has. As opposed to the guy in his garage who's a novice just learning how to fix cars. By way of analogy. So you can actually go to that skilled mechanic and look in his toolbox, and he could tell you which tool is in the box, what is it used for, why you need this tool instead of that tool, and when to use this tool and when not to use that tool, and how to use numerous tools for the same thing, but how to use each tool for that thing. Y'all follow me? These are all by ways of analogy to put something in your mind so you can see a picture. Whereas if you went to that person in the garage, he may not even have the tools that are needed to fix certain parts of the car. Not only not have them, he might not even know all the tools that's needed to fix certain parts of the car. And he is by himself, where if you went to that skilled mechanic, he usually has a team of specialists that he's in contact with, and he knows where to get everything he needs, where to get it from. He has a network that he works within, whereas this other one may not. That's by analogy, just to give you a picture. That skilled mechanic and all of his team and all of his resources and that nice toolbox and lifts and everything that's needed, that's the methodology of a madhab. And the one who's saying, I'm following Quran and Sunnah, may be like that novice who just learned to fix cars in his garage. Do y'all understand the analogy? Is the analogy clear? By way of analogy only. Is it clear? You get the point? I want to flush this out a little bit more later, but not right now. I just want to give you the point. Every madhab has that. And when you study, you'll see that clearly. So since every madhab has that, that means it's needed. It was not just one madhab. Every school has this structure and system of a methodology, experts in every aspect of that methodology, who all work together to extract, clarify, expound upon legal rulings till we get what we have in our hands called a madhab. This is extremely important. So the madhab, for every madhab, has work on that school from the time of the Prophet ﷺ, his companions, the followers of the followers, and hundreds of thousands of scholars in different areas, in different places, all the way down to today, right? Every single school has that. So when you're talking about a school, you're not talking about one individual. You're not talking about a group of individuals. You're talking about a complete body and network of the best legal minds and all of the secondary sciences that needed to have that legal mind in one sound methodology. That's a madhab, right? Whereas this individual who says, I follow Quran and Sunnah, number one, what's your methodology? Because you have books of usul for every school. You got books that tell you how they extract legal rulings, and they're detailed. detailed in one school. I'm not talking about all four. In one school, that's a lifetime work. And that's logical, right? If you think about it, they've been doing this work for over 1,000 years, all around the country, all around the world, discussing, explaining, clarifying, correcting. About 1,000 years worth of work at minimum. For us to really study and research 1,000 years of work, isn't that a lifetime? Isn't that a lifetime of work? Think about it. Do you actually think that you're going to encompass in one school everything that the work that was done on that school for 1,000 years in your little short lifetime? I mean, that's how much it is. But sometimes when we're talking about that, we don't realize that. We're just like really, really not thinking. And it's important to think, not only think, critically think. Then the second question you can ask, and they don't have to be in this order, but for that person who's doing that, what is your background in Islamic studies? What have you actually studied? That you, independently of madhahib, of schools, are going to tell me legal rulings. What have you studied? And not in a way of criticizing you. Honestly, let's give your claim some real consideration. What have you studied? Because you're extracting legal rulings. So obviously, it's assumed if you're doing that, there are certain levels of knowledge that you've already covered and surpassed. In fact, you've become at a level of expertise in those things. Now, what are they? Right? And that person should explain, like, I studied this and this level and this and that and that. And all of this are my qualifications that I don't need to follow a madhab. I can independently do it myself. Because let me give, and I gave y'all those terms before. You're at the level of al-ijtihad or at-taqleed. We already mentioned that before, right? That's the two choices you have. The level of al-ijtihad is the level of expert legal opinion. You yourself can actually go to the sources from which Islamic law, legal rulings are extracted and do that yourself. That's ijtihad. Or you're at the stage of at-taqleed, which is following someone who has that ability. So at the end result, your claim that I follow Quran and Sunnah means that you or whoever you're doing that with has that ability. And you've already excluded the established schools of thought by saying, I don't follow a madhab. I don't follow a school of thought. That means you're qualified. Or whoever you're doing taqleed of is qualified. And that same question goes to you or them. What is your qualifications? And 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10, right? More probable. 9 times out of 10, that person doesn't even know what is needed to do al-ijtihad, let alone being able to do it. Let me repeat that. 9 times out of 10, more probable, 10 times out of 10, the one who made that claim doesn't even know what is needed to do al-ijtihad, let alone to employ it himself. He doesn't even know what he needs to know to do it. Has no idea. So for us to be honest, that's why I said when we're learning these legal rulings, you have to follow a madhab. It's not going to work any other way. We're going to have a mess. Because we're asking someone to do something they don't have the ability to do. That's insanity. And the result is what we see. No legal rulings, no recourse, no. We are a community, a people, and a nation. That means nation has laws and rules, and there are steps that are needed to understand those laws. And as Muslims, we are following a law, a Sharia. There is a way we have to get to that. And if we've reduced it, like we've reduced it unfortunately, in our communities, among our people, where we got fake lawyers who never studied law, but they're giving legal judgments in our communities without recourse to experts. I'm not saying if you're quoting legal rulings and you're actually following experts. We're talking about novice just going for it with real life problems, real life issues that affect the individual, the family, the community, and ultimately the nation. And the rulings are coming from someone who not qualified to give legal rulings. Not because they're bad people necessarily. They're misguided in their understanding. They don't know. They don't even know what it needs to, because if anyone actually knew what it takes to do al-ijtihad, they would gracefully bow out among us. We just be honest. Look, come on. Stop. You know you don't have that ability, right? That's just real. You don't have, and this is scattered thoughts. So we're having like a real talk. I'm trying to not make it so academic so we don't understand. But there is a level of academic approach to the subject, which is not the approach right here. But an indication sometimes is a clear expression. And the scholars, they said, the one who cannot benefit from an indication, a clear expression will do them no good. Do y'all get the indication? So, with that being said, now, for us, there's another job. We have that. We got the point. In the madhab, you have dominant opinions, the dominant legal ruling, and also you have difference of opinion and approaches to different issues. And then on top of that, you have practical legal verdicts that deal with specific situations. All right, 3 levels I'm giving you. Follow me in this. In every school, you have the dominant legal ruling, right? In the madhab, right? So they call that the mu'tamad position or the mashhur position. Different wording. We don't need the technical wording right now. It is the relied upon opinion or judgment in the school in a particular issue, whether it's marriage, divorce, even prayer or purification, any part of the legal rulings, right? there is a dominant opinion in every school, right? So that's one level. Then within the school, in different legal rulings, there are scholarly disagreements as to the precise ruling. So in a school, you're going to find, in some cases, differences of opinion. And they have a purpose. They're not there for nothing. And those differences of opinions always relate to the methodology by which scholars, legal scholars, jurists, extract legal rulings. And there are different levels of that. I'm just giving you what exists. So in the Hanafi school, it's not just one opinion about a legal ruling. In different cases, sometimes there's agreement among the scholars on the legal ruling within the school, and sometimes the experts disagree on the legal ruling based on the methodology by which they approach that legal ruling. And that's a more detailed, but it exists. So it's called differences of legal opinions within a school. So you got the relied upon position, the agreed upon position sometimes, right? And then you have within the school, difference of opinion. There's a reason why I'm saying this. And then within the school, you have legal verdicts that are made by legal experts for specific cases that are not mentioned in the main books of jurisprudence, of fiqh. So these are legal verdicts that were given by experts about specific cases. So really, these are found in books of fatawa, legal verdicts. So let's just take those three levels, right? This is all within a school. Did y'all follow those three levels? In one madhab, in every madhab, you have this issue. So you got the level of the dominant, relied upon opinion within the school. You got the level of disagreement about legal rulings within the same school. And then you got another level of legal verdicts that were given by judges, by scholars, by muftis within the school about specific cases. All of that, we as a people, now I'm coming to us, when we're dealing with different issues, we need to have access to all of that because we're dealing with real practical situations, and it's never a cookie cut answer. Never. There's always, in our situations, because of the uniqueness of our situations, variables that we need to take into consideration when we give legal rulings. This was something that was mentioned at the Riyadh, not in this kind of detail, but it was indicated. In other words, you're dealing with living things, living issues rather. They're practical, they're actually happening with many, 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 many variables. When you give a legal ruling, you can't just give a general ruling without considering all of the factors that are going to be impacted by that legal ruling. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? Because it's something I raised at the Riyadh, and I meant to talk about it last night, but I forgot. So all this is to get to where I'm going. Do y'all so far follow me? If anyone didn't follow me, please ask me a question. I'll pause to give you a chance to ask a question if it's something you didn't understand. I'll take a quick pause because this is important. Actually, this is helping us get freedom. We really won't be doing blind following no more. It won't be just a saying that we're saying. We actually won't be blind following. We'll be following, but not blindly following. There's a difference. We will be following, no doubt about it. That we have to follow. But the way you follow can be clear-sightedly or it can be blindly. We won't be following blindly anymore. We need to remove that. But in order to do that, you need to understand all this stuff and more, but step by step. Okay, since we didn't have any questions, I assume everyone understood. We can move on. So when we're talking about actual situations, and that's all we're talking about, marriage and all those things, the answer for that situation could be at any one of those three levels. The solution, which is the answer. It could be at the level of the dominant opinion. It could be solved within the disagreements and various legal opinions in a school. It could be at the level of a legal verdict from a qualified jurist within the school. The solution may be anywhere in that. It is not always at the highest level where there's an agreed opinion because of the circumstances, the context of the particular practical case, right? It's not a clear-cut all the time halal haram answer. Though we may think that, that's not reality. Sometimes that ruling is not the fitting ruling for the particular case. So other things, we're just talking within a school, right? Sometimes there's variables there that need to, if this is the case, then this should be the answer for that case. In general, this is the answer. But now that you add all these particulars, that answer doesn't fit this case. You can't use that. You need this, right? That's within the school. And the one who's doing that needs to be skilled in legal methodology and how to apply it to practical cases, to real cases. That's important. With that being said, that exists in every school, those stages, right? In general. So therefore, in some cases, you may need to go outside of the school for the answer for that particular case. So there you have 4 schools that all have these legal methodologies. And sometimes, depending on the case, the legal ruling may come from another school, not the particular school you're researching in or you're studying in because of the case. That's understanding an underlining foundational objective of the sacred law. What is that underlining foundational objective of the sacred law? to ensure benefit and remove harm. So that's a consideration in every legal ruling. To ensure benefit and remove harm. That is an underlining principle in every legal ruling. Don't forget the objective. The objective of these legal rulings is ultimately to ensure benefit and remove harm. So when we're actually applying legal rulings, that is always in the back of our minds. How do we ensure benefit and remove harm from the morally responsible individual? Ultimately, that's the underlying principle that, or the underlying objective that we're trying to achieve through the sacred law. It's very important. And we don't have these kind of discussions usually in our community. And that's why we la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This is a very important discussion. And I can tell you, I've been around quite a long time. Rarely did we have these type of discussions. Right? So I'm giving you a picture into that world. Why? So now we're going to look into other schools. So for instance, in one school, the dominant opinion may be this, but the reality you live on the ground will never work in that school. But in the other school, for instance, it's not that case. And that may be the suitable ruling because of your situation. It happens in marriage. Sometimes the ideal situation is not there. There's variables that exist. And the one who is not aware of that or is not skilled is going to give you a ruling that actually is not the proper ruling for that case. It is a legal ruling. We're not denying that. But is that the proper ruling to apply to that case? I'm going to ask you a question to give you an example to bring it to your mind. Is everyone, the new word they say, is everyone who unlives someone a murderer? That's the new word, unlive. Is everyone who unlives someone else, are they necessarily a murderer? Is every person who has sexual relations outside of marriage necessarily a fornicator or an adulterer? Is everyone who has sexual relations outside of marriage necessarily a fornicator or an adulterer? Is everyone who ingests alcohol necessarily a drunkard? That case is very dear to me because it actually happened. Is everyone who ingests alcohol necessarily an alcoholic, a drunkard? That happened to me the other day. To a group of us. Someone gave us something that we thought was a pure substance, and we took it thinking, trusting that person that it was a pure substance. And after we took it, we discovered that the way that person extracted that pure substance had an alcohol base, but he never told us. So we only had a spoonful, but we discovered, hey, this is alcohol in it. We didn't know it. So are we judged as alcoholics and drunkards and we needed to be lashed and right? You took alcohol, that's the rule. Pow! Right? No. So what we understand from all these questions, these things vary by cases, and there are legal rulings for each case. That's to give you the example. Right? That's to give you examples. Malika, that's simple. That one's obvious. That one's obvious. Think about it. That's obvious, Malika. Think about it, and it will come to you quick. It's obvious. Let me give you one that's mentioned in the books of fiqh. You ready? A man, this is mentioned in the books of fiqh. It's funny. A man comes home and the lights are out. He gets in the bed with a woman who he thinks is his wife, and he has relations with her. She was sleeping. She didn't realize what was happening. Are they considered adulterers? Is he an adulterer and she a fornicator? She was unmarried. A friend of the wife, a relative, anyone. To give you an example, she was sleeping. She didn't realize until after the actual act, while it was happening, that this was happening to her, but he thought it was his wife. I know that sounds weird. It is actually mentioned in the books. So they did have relations outside of marriage, but they're not going to have the judgment of fornicator and adulterer, meaning he's not going to be stoned to death and she's not going to be lashed. So you see my point? It's variables. It's a practical, it's mentioned in the books. That's why I said it. And then there's more obvious ones, right? But that's called fiqh, right? So we don't just say, no, they did it outside of marriage. He's going to be taken out. He's going to be stoned, and she's going to be given lashes and banished from the society. But if the person doesn't know fiqh, he's going to do that, right? I got crazy fiqh stories, so we don't want to talk about this stuff, right? Some of this, my mind is like crazy. So when I think of some of the cases, because from our culture, things are funny and hilarious, that sometimes they're not like legally that's haram, but because the way we grew up in our lives, the haram become normal and your mind thinks about stuff that's just weird, right? But they are legal cases. So The point being made here is that sometimes the cases are going to necessitate different applications of legal rulings. That's the point, right? Sometimes the specifics of the case are going to necessitate different legal rulings. That's the point. Sometimes within a school, sometimes outside of a school. Is these points clear? Don't go drifting off like I did. Just get the point. With that being said, here's what I raised at the Riyadh, and I meant to raise last night, but I didn't. What we need, hold on, everybody got their seatbelt on? This is going to take a real freedom fighter to say what I'm getting ready to say. Furqan, you got your seatbelt on? What I'm getting ready to say going to shock most of you, right? Let's go back to the thing I started with. We, African Americans, are a community, a people, and a nation. Can we put that up again? We, African Americans, are a community, a people, and a nation. Y'all got it? Can we put that up again? Muhammad, can you put that up again? Just so. Can everyone copy that? Because everything has a context. I said all that to say what I'm getting ready to say. I meant to say it I said it at the Riyadh, but I didn't mention it last night, and I'm gonna mention it now. Can everyone copy that? Even if you're not African American, you're joining in for the discussion, copy it so you get the point, because you can help too. Don't think I'm not African American, I can't help. Nah, you can help this problem too. You copy too. It fits for you. We can actually do more than service. We can actually think. We can actually walk, chew gum at the same time. We can actually spell. We can actually read. Like, we are capable people. We can, seriously. I know some don't believe that, but it's true. Okay. With that being said, since that's the case, we need skilled legal experts to help us with legal rulings that are applied properly to our real life situations and circumstances from us. Y'all got that? We, African Americans, as a community, as a people, as a nation, need skilled legal experts from among us to apply legal rulings to our situations and circumstances with sound methodology. I'm going to repeat it again. Probably ain't going to sound the same, but the meaning will be the same. We, African Americans, since we are a community, a people, and a nation, we need skilled, qualified legal experts to apply legal rulings to our particular circumstances and situations based on sound methodology. Man, that is a mouthful, but it's so true. Let me say it one more time. That's how important it is, because I don't think we realize that. And until we do it, we in trouble. We, African Americans, as a community, a people, and a nation, need skilled, qualified, legal experts from among us to apply legal rulings to our circumstances and situations based on sound methodology. Absolutely, we need it. Everyone else, every community, nation, people, and nation have that except us. In fact, even in America, where we exist, African Americans, the legal rulings for our situation are not coming from us. They're coming from people who don't even understand us. Let me repeat that. African Americans who live in America, who came up under the system of white supremacy, racism, Jim Crow, all the stuff, redlining, education, being deprived of educational access. You think of everything that has hit us as a people. You got people who don't understand none of that giving us legal rulings. That's a crime. That's a crime. And we are allowing ourselves to be victimized by people who don't understand us. And I would go one step further, often don't even care about us. So the legal rulings are given without even concern and care about the result of that legal ruling among the people who it's being given to. That's a crime. That is a crime. And there's a well-known understanding in legal theory, Islamic legal theory, that whoever judges a people and is not aware of their conditions is a criminal. Write that down. There's a well-known legal theory in Islamic fundamentals of jurisprudence. Before the legal ruling, in the foundations of how we arrive at legal rulings, that the one who judges a people without being aware of their circumstances is a criminal. And we know that to be true. Let me give you a legal ruling that was given to me. I won't tell you who gave it to me. A scholar. That legal ruling was given twice by two scholars in my coming up. One legal ruling, they were similar. Told some inner city brothers that we're in the abode of war called Darul Harb. So I'll put this word for some of you. Right? What that means, we live in non-Muslim lands that are hostile to Muslims. We're literally at conflict with them. So America is Darul Harb. Therefore, you can sell drugs to weaken the country. I swear I'm not making this up. Some scholars told some brothers in the hood that legal ruling. Okay, Shake, 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 shake. You can't tell them that. Even if there is some context to what you're saying that has some legal legitimacy in conflict, war, quote unquote, that ain't what you tell some brothers in the hood, bro. What you're not realizing, Sheikh, is the one you're telling that to is going to go destroy his community. Not what you're aiming at. You're aiming at a system that person you're telling is going to take that legal ruling and apply it to the victims of that system, Sheikh. Did you just hear what I said? This is the conversation to the Sheikh. You tripping. We love you, but you bugging. You can't tell us that. We already doing that, waging war on ourselves. We're not waging war on whom you're talking about. We're waging war on ourselves. We the victims of those rulings, not the ones you think. That guy you're trying to get to, that ain't how you're going to get to him. In fact, that's how you're going to empower him. Because you know what he's going to do? You're going to tell that person, that ruling, that person going to go in his local neighborhood, start selling drugs to non-Muslims who happen to be just like him. Those people you're trying to fight, going to put him in jail and make millions of dollars and strengthen his institutions. Stupid. Did you hear what I just said? And with all due respect, but you're trying to kill my community with your foolish rulings. You ain't even think about it because you don't even know the system you're talking about. Your ruling is going to destroy my community, even though it may have some basis in the sacred law, but that's not what you're going to apply to us. You just strengthen the one you're trying to go get. You claim we're going to bring down kufr, and you just gave them hundreds of millions of dollars from the legal ruling you gave to some brothers in the hood. Talking about the Sheikh said, and his knobs want to sell drugs anyway. Do you understand? This is real stuff. I've been around. It's real stuff. These were actually legal rulings that was given in the hood, in the inner cities, what I mean by the hood. I ain't making it up. I could actually name the teachers who said it, but we won't go there. So the evils from that judgment are worse. So obviously, that's not a legal ruling that you're going to tell somebody. And definitely you're not going to apply it when you think of the consequence. Well, Khadija, that would be detailed understanding of the Sharia. And the point that I'm making is not to go into the detailed legal rulings of the Sharia. You have to actually learn the Sharia to understand where that, in what context that would make sense. But that's details. But trust me, you live off those legal rulings in America all day. Similar rulings. You enjoy the life in America because of crazy legal rulings like that, but from our government, not from Islam. Stuff that you think is not justifiable is happening every day, so you can watch this live if you want to be real technical. So just think, imagine what's being done so we can have what we have today of evil, if you really think about it. And it's justified so they can do what they do legally. legally in our American jurisprudence, there are stuff that's happening so we can have our life that would make you shake if you see the stuff that they're doing so we can be comfortable. Seriously. And if you want an example of that, there is a movie. What's the name of that movie? Jack Nicholson, A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise. That's Jack Nicholson, right? Tom Cruise. Remember, Tom Cruise was in the courtroom. I want the truth. And he looked at him and said, you can't handle the truth. Y'all remember that? Yeah, that. He said, if you know what I do so you can be comfortable, I would like a thank you. No, it'd be some stuff. See, because we think as a colonized people, so we don't realize what really happens. We in slave mode, so we don't realize what's really going on. So that's an example of how sometimes those legal rulings can go crazy. I have some other ones. I'm gonna leave that one out. It's too close to home. But it was similar to that other ruling. It was very close and the same from a different scholar, from a different place. But what I realized, even though those legal rulings have sometimes they are valid, but in the context, they're not applicable. Right? So sometimes the legal ruling may be legally correct, but it's not applicable in the situation. That's the point, if you got me. But guess what? Someone who doesn't care about you don't care about all that. They're just gonna give you a legal ruling. And if you're an uneducated, blind follower, you're gonna take that legal ruling and you're gonna apply it and you're gonna self-destruct without even realizing what's happening. While the sheikh is sitting over there having his dates and tea. That was funny. Someone said that, and that wasn't me. It was funny. He said the sheikh is over there having his dates and tea. He don't care what you're talking about. And that's real, right? So we need our own people who understand our circumstances and understands the sacred law and the methodology by which the sacred law rulings are extracted from the sacred law and how they're applicable in practical real-time situations. All that we need for ourselves. Hence, we need to spend our energy and our wealth on building experts, educated experts in various fields of the Islamic disciplines, especially when it comes to legal rulings. We should not just be doing that as individual endeavors. It doesn't work. We need a collective community endeavor. So we need our own independent research teams that ultimately lead to legal judgments for the cases that exist in our communities under our circumstances and our situations. That's a communal obligation that we must do. It's a must. And until we do that, we're going to be victims religiously, educationally, economically, culturally, socially, spiritually. We're going to be victims until we get this done. That's a real job. And I mentioned that not with this amount of detail, we didn't have time at the Riyadh, because I was listening to these questions and I'm listening to the answers that are sincere from our heart. We want to do the right thing, but like, this ain't the solution. This ain't no, this ain't no just give no answers. And not according to one school. We need research teams. You can't just be, man, that don't work. You have to, and you can't just do what you want. There's a legal process that we must go through Islamically. We can't just say, this is how I feel about it, and I don't care what the sacred law says. No, that's not the answer. Someone actually said that. A question was asked, and this is a serious question. I'm gonna give you, it was serious. A sister found out that her husband was on the down low. In other words, she found out that her husband is sexually engaging with other men, and he was married to her, and he was actively, according to her, that's her claim. We didn't hear nothing from him, so I'm not saying that was the case. And that should be understood. Number one, I hear what she's saying. That doesn't make it the truth. That doesn't mean it's not true. But because it sounds so horrendous and because it sounds so ugly, we can't make it the reality. We have to actually see the case and learn the details of the case before we can give any judgment. And people were saying, oh no, she can't be married to him. That's an automatic divorce. And I said, wait a minute. What kind of legal practice is this? I know it sounds ugly, but you didn't even know the details of it, and you're giving a legal ruling. And the legal ruling is totally wrong anyway. But nevertheless, right? Like, come on, man. You can't do that. This is somebody's life. There are children involved. There are so many things that will come as a result of the wrong ruling in this case. And someone, oh, well, and somebody actually came to us saying, so are you going to grant that sister a divorce? Who the heck am I to grant them a divorce? I don't even know how they got married. I don't know any of that stuff. I don't even know if they're really married. We didn't go through no legal process and research before we given a judgment. That's a crime. I don't even know if they're legally married. Maybe the whole marriage contract was invalid. I don't know that. I don't even know how they got, I don't even know what they did. How am I going to make a legal judgment about something I know nothing about? The details of it. Y'all follow my point? And here's the sad thing. If the person is not aware of all this, you hear women going off, and I understand. Man, I would have whooped him. Man, I'm divorcing myself. You can't divorce anyone, sister, right? Like, that's not even in the Sharia. That's not in the sacred law. You divorcing because you got mad and you think something and you, no, it don't work that way. These are real stuff. We're not making this stuff up. Where's our people who understand all these sickos, our jurists who understand all the circumstances, understand people, understand their customs, understand how we are to give us legal rulings? Right? No, this is serious stuff. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be answered, but that ain't a one-man answer, actually. That should be a team of people who research the issue, understood, because all that what it entails. I gave you all these different levels. Has this ever happened? Is there precedents, legal cases that this happened and legal scholars gave judgments about it? Did you even research? Like maybe what we're talking about, legal jurists, judges already answered that and laid down the facts of how that case should be dealt with evidences, with research. Did we even check? Or we just go for it? Like, you understand what I mean? You ever been to court? You ever saw a legal brief? A legal brief, when they give it, they're going to be discussing why this should be the issue. And they're going to have case law for that, precedent for why the legal ruling should be this, why the judge should rule this. And the judge is going to say, no, this case, these are lawyers. We're talking about law here, the sacred law. You can't just make it up. And all of this exists, right? We have to, and we should be researching it. Do y'all follow my point? Is this clear for everyone? I told you it's be a little lengthy, because this is just the theory of it. To actually do it is a lot of work. And when I was listening to them questions, I was like, this requires Supreme Court justice to answer some of this stuff. Like, stuff is crazy, but it's real. And you got poor little imams who don't have the tools to work on this job. Don't have none of the tools that's needed for what we're talking about. That's sad, right? And then they got the guy talking about something, I'm Quran and Sunnah. I studied in this university for 4 or 6 years, and you giving legal judgments, bro? Come on, man. Would you stop it? We need to research. And collectively, we need to do that, because some people don't know how to research. So they can't. They don't even have access. They don't even know where to begin to look. Right? Like that one who's talking about I follow Quran and Sunnah, they don't even know where to begin to look. Most of them don't even know how to navigate a law book, a book of fiqh. They don't even know how to move through it, let alone commentaries, let alone super commentaries, let alone what is needed to that. Books of usul, books, they don't know nothing about none of this stuff. This dude think I just read Bukhari and Muslim and the Quran and I'm good. Tafsir Ibn Kathir and I'm going to give a judgment. Man, are you crazy? But they're doing it every day in our communities all around the country on all these serious cases that deserve top legal minds to work on. And they wonder why our communities look the way they look. This is serious stuff. And am I saying that we're qualified to do it? No, we're not. But we have to help. We have to plant the seed. We have to do our part in developing so we reach as a community, as a people, as a nation, where we have what we need to survive and thrive. It's our job. Even if you're not capable, you got to be like your great-great-great-grandfather or grandmother who couldn't read and say, you know what? My children are going to be well-read, educated, and they did what they had to do, even though themselves, they couldn't read. We've done it in the West. I think we forgot our own history. We've done it. We've been denied access, treated bad, and we figured our way out of that stuff. We got to do the same thing in Islam. And that's my long, scattered thoughts. If there's any questions, statements, related to what I'm talking about. I don't want to go all over the place. If you got the concept that I'm talking about, which I believe is extremely important, it needs to be flushed out. It needs more details. Yes, because this is my scattered thoughts. This is not, I didn't sit down and write all this stuff out. I'm talking what I realize from my experience, from my studies, from real life, and I'm just talking to you. If I was to write it out, it would be much more advanced, right? But the point should be understood. Where's my glasses? Let me try to read this, Khadijah. What if the facts in the scenario you just gave were true? Why do I need a legal ruling to get to a divorce from a known practicing homosexual? Because there are details. There are details. That's why, because there are details. And how do we know the facts are true? Did those facts become facts because of a valid legal Islamic process that confirms that these are facts? Or did the facts come from false means or invalid means of gaining information? Right? Is a text message enough to make that true? Even if they're explicit text messages, does it make it true? Even if the man was talking to another man in the text saying, last night we had a party, does that make it actually, is that evidence to say that's what they actually done? No, it's not. I was in his phone and that's what I saw. That's not evidence. In fact, that case, a lot of that was seen text messages. And the guy said, ugly as it may sound, that we be just playing, me and my friend. It's ugly playing. I don't know why men play like that, but that was his claim. He could have been lying, but according to him, they play like that. That's some sinful playing. But people play haram jokes all the time. That's where you get the no Diddy stuff from. Pause. Why do I need to say pause? I ain't even into that life. You see how we say that? And we say it, right? Pause. Pause for what? That ain't me. Jokes inside of it. Not the best jokes in the world, but that's not going to establish legally that someone is practicing an alternative lifestyle. That's not how you establish that in the sacred law. That's why you need to know the rule, so you don't falsely accuse someone. Right? Because if you falsely accuse someone, what about their rights? And what's the legal punishment for the one who falsely accused someone of something? We forgot that part. We can just do whatever we want, right? There's no rules. Just say whatever we want. Islam came to protect the reputation of that person too. So we don't need to be specific. That's a case. I'm just giving you the case needs to be well searched out. If it's well searched out and then the legal process is taken, which we need to establish, even what that looks like. See, this is a thing we missing. Islam has a legal system. It's not do it yourself. There is such thing as an Islamic judge, even if you don't have one. And there's ways to establish the alternative when there is no judge. And there's ways to go about that. How to establish all that stuff is in fiqh. You have to learn the rules. You cannot just do what you want. Do you understand this point? I mean, really, does everyone understand this point? It's very important. We actually used to doing what we want and without no legal consequence. And that's not reality. And hence, because that's the case, that's why no one in the world take us serious. You know, they have legal councils all over the world, thick councils. You know who not on those councils? Us. All around the world, in every country, almost. Even in America, there are thick councils of scholars who come together, quote unquote. Guess who ain't there? Us. We not represented. They not even thinking about us. It's a legal system, sis. We can't just do our own stuff. I know we like that, but we not like that. I know we like that, but we are not like that. We're not. I know you like to think of yourself as I can do it myself. No, you can't. And that's why we in the trouble we are, because you keep trying to do it yourself. And you refuse as a collective group to learn and protect yourself. You'd rather just be individuals and destroy your whole collective. This is bad. This doesn't work. And I know sometimes we so arrogant and puffed up with pride, we only fight each other. Mr. Charlie said, get in your place. We said, yes, sir, boss. I'm in my place. It's a serious stuff. But we need to do it. And we've never done it collectively and sustained it. We tried, we had attempts, but we tapped out somewhere. And we have to pick that ball back up. But number one, you have to have some self-dignity to do it. That's from the leaders. The leaders got to have guts. Because all of us know exactly what I'm saying. All of us, all of our leaders understand what I'm saying in general. Now, having the courage to actually do it is a whole nother story. All of our African-American imams and teachers understand what I'm talking about. Now, to have the courage to actually do the work, that's a whole nother story. Because there's an underlining thing is saying, boy, why you start thinking you could do your own stuff? Because I'm not a boy, I'm a man, and I'm responsible for my family, my community, my people, and my nation. That's why I have to do it. And I have to figure it out. And I have to get the help. And I have to build. And I have to develop among us our own scholarship. It's a must. For our own survival, we have to do it. That's why, because I'm a man and I'm responsible. That's my answer to you. I'm not your boy. Or in my Mace voice, I'm not your little homie. I'm not your little man. We don't do the big homie thing. I'm not your little man. That's right. All right. I think you said who had a question? Where is it at? On marriage to women. Okay. I'm assuming the question is, what is the legal rule of marrying a woman knowing she's not from the people of the book, meaning a non-Muslim woman who's not from the people's haram. But that even has details. So when I'm saying haram in general, the specific cases may be different. And you can't apply a general ruling to a specific case. So that's general ruling. Go to the specifics. There's details in the books of fiqh. Who makes up the people of the book? What that relates to? That's all detailed stuff that needs to be sorted out. Right? And actually, in some schools, what you consider people of the book in that school is not the people of the book. There's details to that. And in some schools, the ruling is much more accommodating for that. In other schools, it's much more strict and restricted. So there's details. And that's why I said these cookie cutter answers don't work. The whole situation got to be taken in within the context of the sacred law. That's why we need our own scholars who understand our stuff. It's important. And which is the answer to it, because so knowing that people's culture and urf is very important in fiqh. Absolutely. And it has its place in the sacred law. Even knowing how they talk and what they mean by their speech is important, right? Because sometimes what you understand from their speech, they don't understand. Especially us. We have our own language. Even within the English language, we have our own language. And if you don't understand that language, you can't even know what we're talking about. To give the ruling, you don't even understand how we talk. So the solution, because we're talking about issues, the solution is we need to collect, and we're working on it. We're going to start having, among the leaders that were at that, we're going to have this conversation. We actually need to figure that out. That's work. And that's a lot of work. And one of the elders brought up the point, that's why we need money. So I'll put it, we need money to do this stuff. It's not free. So we always need your support for the work we're doing. Just to get the message out and to reach and have real meetings and gatherings and sitting, that stuff costs money, you know? And we need a lot of it. We need to have gatherings where we bring imams from all over the country, learned people, students of knowledge, and we sit in rooms weekends and pound all this stuff out. We need to make our own councils, Sunni councils, that we start working and researching and using all the resources we have. For instance, you studied in Syria, you studied in Yemen, you studied in Egypt, you studied in Pakistan. We need to all come together. Here's the rulings. You're Hanafi, you're Maliki, you're Shafi. Let's research. Here's the books. Here's the libraries. Here's the research center. We need all that stuff among us to deal with our situations, because all of us understand. Now, how do we apply the law to what we're dealing with? And then actually have this body that supports imams on the ground, because the imam on the ground may not have no resources. So he needs to have this body of people that he could tap into that support him in legal rulings when stuff got to happen. It's not just him by himself. And then everybody go attack the imam. Oh man, who do you think he is? I ain't listening to that. You know us. But if he got a whole body of people that comes and supports, here's the legal ruling. He can bring a council of imams that come and say, no, this is the issue. And here's the ruling. And this is why. And some people can write. Some people, because we got skill sets, we got deficiencies. Maybe the imam but he's not a writer. Maybe the verdict needs to come from someone who's a skilled writer and puts all this stuff together and says, here's the ruling and this is why, and here's what the team of researchers came up with. And then it needs to be checked, and all that costs money. That's not free, but we need it. Legal teams, researchers, some people need to spend their life on our behalf researching and studying, and that got to be paid for. Right? So people like, how much you need? We need to build a whole nation. How much does it take to build a nation? What's the financial revenues of a nation? In the billions of dollars, if you're serious. And if you're talking about a startup, thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars that you need to build what we're talking about, a community, a people, a nation. You're talking money. What does it take to be a full-time researcher? And doing all that research, you're talking about law. Thousands of books, not computers. You actually got to check text. Gotta, and I ain't even get into that whole world. So, and we're leading that charge in our communities. Masjid Muhammad is at the forefront of that, right? So we need your support. We do. Actually, I wish, I'm gonna make this personal for me. I wish that I ain't had to do nothing else but work on this project. I wish that was the case. I wish I could pay a full-time imam to go do my job, just the religious part, who's trained, and let me go work on this project. And I could fly all over the country, meetings, go outside the country, meet with councils, sit, watch how they do things. That's work. I wish I could do it. But that takes a big financial support. I remember when I was studying, everybody from every other country, they were supported by institutions and groups. We were the only Black people over there with no support, just us. Today, I think about that. Even they sent in, and I watch, there's a masjid in Jersey. I don't need to be specific about it, but I used to watch their kids learning at the masjid. I used to talk to them. Those kids are now back in their masjid, more than one, high-paying salaries as imams and resident scholars in their community. I watched them do it. And even those sheikhs now, they remember me when they was college kids. And I used to come to their masjids and talk with them, and they was kids in college, some of them in high school. Now they're paid $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year in their masjids as resident scholars. And you got us leaving the hood, going to them, talking about, I'm sitting with the sheikh. Come on, guys. Because we don't support our own stuff. We only have the slave mentality. Go sit at the feet of someone else and get the crumbs that fall off the table. No, this is real stuff. I know it sounds sometimes kind of harsh the way I say things, but it's harsh when you look at the reality. That's really harsh. What's really happening, that's harsh. And we have to understand, stop being selfish to our own demise. We have to do it. And not everyone's going to do that. So, since we're being the ones talked to, we got to do it. Right? And we end up, listen, history just repeats itself. What did we do before we had what was, some of you are educated, what was the driving force for us as a community, as a people, as a nation, to start historically Black college and universities, to have that desire? What occurred? There was something in the educational system that wasn't there for us. And the idea to have something that directly goes to us was done. It was a reason. There was something that was occurring that said, you know what, this ain't working for us. We need something specific for us. Though others go, but there's something there. Nail, this is your time to be a sheikh. Why did you go to a historical Black college or university? There you go. He put it. Okay, let's take Nail's saying. Segregation, lack of resources, lack of acknowledgement of our historical plight. Is there anything different in our Islamic context, Nail? Let's be honest. Is there anything different in general in our Islamic context? Us as African Americans, is it? That's a question to ask. You're an educated guy. Not at all. Okay. So the same thing we needed to do as Black Americans, African Americans, we need to do the same thing as Black Muslim Americans or African American Muslims, the same stuff. So, and since that's what we need to, but we cannot say, let's have an inferior education. We have to, what? Raise the bar, because we're on a global platform. So we have to raise the bar. And listen, that's how I look at our work. I look at us just laying the seeds, because we can't do it. Most of us are not capable, not because we don't want to, we just don't have the skill set to do what it takes. We have to raise and train people to do that. But you have us place, right? You have a place. And one of the sad things I see we've done, and I've been a part of it, and I'm still a part of it, it's a struggle, is taking other people's fight and making it ours. That has absolutely, in reality, nothing to do with us. We're good at that. We all went overseas, we learned, we took their fight, brought it to our people, and made it our fight, when it actually has nothing to do with us. And we just abandoned our own plight. And now we add it to our plight with somebody else's stuff. And the resources we have become nullified because we're fighting someone else's stuff. So we're so busy beating each other up with somebody else's fight that we ain't even got nothing to do with it. And it don't really deal with our reality. I'm not saying it ain't important, but that ain't our priority in our situation, in our circumstance. That's not the priority. And not only, to be fair, not only the Salafi stuff. I can think of Sunni groups who did that. Sufi groups, movements. You can go all over. We've been victims by everybody. It's not exclusive. And we're still doing it. To this day, we're still doing it. It ain't just a Salafi Wahhabi thing. Man, we've been played collectively, right? So I don't want to be unjust. Everybody had a share in doing us wrong. And if we just be critical and be honest, not to be mean and negative, just be critical and honest so we can change the situation. Everyone has had that share. And all you got to do is go to different places and see how the Black man is treated. That's all. Simple. It's not hard. Go to a convention, go to a retreat, go to scholarly gatherings and see where you fit in. Yeah. See if you at the same level of everybody else. And if you individually are, see if your people collectively are. So if individually you the man up on the stage or you the man out front, that may be you. What's your other people doing? Make an announcement and serving the tea and coffee or something? Or sitting in the back? They're not authoritative. You know it and I know it too, right? So these are issues, but I'm not complaining about issues. I'm talking about how we can fix it. But trust me, we ain't doing it without no money. It'll never happen. So we have to do the money part. And we can't be apologetic about it. Like, we must do the money part. Or it's not going to be achievable. Right? It's not going to be achievable. It's not. And you must take your best minds and free them from this system that keeps us where we at. You have to free some people so that the minds can go, they can explore, they can research, they can build. They have to be free to do that. And yes, we need it if we're serious. Other than that, we're just talking. And I know firsthand, the more financially stable we are, the more access we'll have. If we as a group brought our resources together, supported our leaders, listen, we'll be much more influential and powerful. I know that now from where we stand right now. Because of how we support each other now at this level, doors open to us that without that support, without the following, without this, we wouldn't get the doors open that we got. People talk to us because they got a following. When we did that conference, when we do the African American Summit, people are like, wow, they're not by themselves. When they see hundreds of us coming together, they be like, oh, they got followers. They got people that support them. They are to be considered. So imagine when we're financially really free, what we could do. People talk to people just because they have money. You know that, right? If you're broke today, tomorrow you become a millionaire, you're going to have a whole different level of respect. You do know that, right? If you're broke today and tomorrow you become a millionaire, you're going to have a whole different level of influence. The same people who used to talk junk to you going to be knocking at your door. You do know that, right? So we live in a world that respects economic prosperity, economic influence, financial development. We live in that kind of world. And sometimes we try to act like that's not real, but it is. That's why doors open to Farrakhan that don't open for average Sunni Muslims, because Farrakhan has money and a support base. And so when he go, those same people who we cowering down to got him at the table and listening to him and not you, because he has financial support and base and a support. It means something. All right, that was my long 2-hour rant. I am done. I hope this was of some benefit. Anything that I said correct was from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And anything I said wrong is from my own self and my own misunderstanding of events and issues. May Allah correct that. And with your help, we'll do that. Barakallahu bikum wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.